I believe in trans. I want to make sure that kids are able to do this if they do feel comfortable. How would you like them to have empathy for you? What do they not understand about you as a parent? Like, these are the discussions I think a lot of times we don't have because there's this like dunk on culture.
Right.
So like, what is it you'd like someone in good faith? Right. They're not a psychopath. They're someone who's really trying to make the best decision.
Okay, so you said something earlier. You said, I think both sides care about kids. I don't know. I think the percentage would be more people on the right care for kids than those on the left.
Patrick Bet-David brought Andrew Schulz on his show, the PBD podcast, on the Valuetainment YouTube channel, and absolutely annihilated him for a ridiculously woke take that Andrew Schulz had. Now, a lot of people recently have been praising Andrew Schulz for how, based he is and, calling out all of the woke nonsense, everything like that. But I really wasn't buying it. A long time ago, he brought on, some people from the Fresh and Fit podcast. I remember he brought them on and just said like woke talking point after woke talking point and kind of tried to ambush them. And ever since then, I was kind of iffy on Andrew Schulz. I understand that he calls out a lot of the nonsense. He's a comedian. That's what comedians do. But I've never really been 100% sold on him, whereas recently a lot of people have been siding with Andrew Schulz and really liking him a lot. But Patrick Bet-David and Andrew Schulz really clashed on this episode of the PBD podcast. Let's get into it, where Patrick Bet-David has to shut down Andrew Schulz for a woke take here live. Let's check it out.
The day that said, I feel sorry for the parents if a kid who they raise well later on transitions and becomes transgender. Okay?
If the kid, if you're sorry for the...
You raise them well, and then later on they're a kid when they transition, when they're a teenager, and I blame the parent. So to me, a part of what happened is, in Hollywood, you're looking at all these guys, and their kids are trans, and it's like a competition. -2, -2, me too, me too, me too.
A lot of them.
So that's the pure pressure of being accepted. Then on the other side, when you're talking about empathy, I feel empathy for kids all the flipping time when I meet them. Because the kid is not yet fully developed. I'm like, dude, I truly feel bad for this kid.
Yep.
But he's not coming to, we're not raising him. He's going to go to those parents' house. And if you say something, the parents, you're now in that, so you sympathize with the kid. You try to give some feedback to the parents if there's a relationship there. Typically, there's not. So then you're like, dude, I'm asked out. I really want to find a way to do something with this. I feel bad for the kid. And then on the other side, when you're like a parent comes up, and a father came up to me, one of our neighbors, he says, hey, my son just told me this, and we're at dinner at Casa D'Angelo, Jennifer sitting right next to me. The man is crying. He's in his mid-50s. He's like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And then I feel for him because he's not doing it. But the part about this that's the black and white, not the gray area. We should be competitive.
And it's, bro, that is such, I've heard those horror stories so often where, you can blame the parents a lot of the time. It's pretty obvious to me when you can blame the parents and when you can't. And you can kind of just tell a lot of time before a kid is even born, if their parents are the type to make their children trans and push those agendas on them. But the horror stories that I hear about, people who raise their kids completely normal, but they don't have the capacity to homeschool them or whatever the case is. And, they get sent to school, they get indoctrinated, and then maybe they have a friend who becomes trans and it's like, oh, I want to be like my friend. So I'm also going to be trans. And then the parent just doesn't know what to do. It's horrible, man. Because like from the outside looking in, you're like, oh, you have all these thoughts like, screw that kid, disown that kid, whatever. That's what a lot of people will say jokingly. But then when you are the actual parent, it's a completely different story. You're so much more emotionally attached to that kid. Like you've been with that kid, raising that kid since birth, literally since the beginning of their life. So it's hard to just let that go. But also at the same time, you don't want to push back on it super hard because you also have that attachment with the kid, right? It's just an absolute worst nightmare scenario. And that's why for a long time, I was just like, I'm not having kids. I'm not having kids in this world because stuff like that's going to happen, But now I've just realized that if you just make enough money, which I have, multiple businesses now that are making pretty decent money, I can just afford to homeschool my kid, not have them go through the indoctrination camps, and just raise them as a normal human being. I can just do that. And that's what I'm going to do instead of just giving up and saying, oh, I'm just not going to have kids. Just if you're going to have kids, I feel like it's in the modern day, this is going to be a very hot take, very controversial take. But I think in the modern day, if you're having kids, you need to be able to homeschool your kids. If you're not able to homeschool your kids, you shouldn't be having kids. You got more work to do first. Unless you want your kids to turn out like lunatics, then go ahead and send them off to public school or private school, because even the private schools nowadays are infiltrated. So I'm not trusting any of it, you know. And maybe if you want to send your kid to a private school in the deep south after you've done a lot of research on it, possibly. But in my opinion, if you're going to have kids, be able to homeschool the kids. Simple as that.
Passionate. We should have empathy. Even for this guy named McBride, we should have empathy for him. What caused him to get here? What happened with his upbringing with his parents?
Yeah.
What happened? I don't know. I feel bad. Like even when the Chelsea handler thing was going on, and you know she's talking shit to Adam, Adam's talking shit to Chelsea, the lifestyle she lives, and then you go and look it up, bro. She was 9 years old. Her love of her life was her older brother, 22 years old. Decides to go camping. He's climbing a mountain or whatever it is. He falls and he dies. Never comes home. Dad was, I believe, a car dealership salesman, and she is devastated. The house is devastated. She sees the most powerful man in her house, her father, not know how to handle it. Yeah, of course she's not going to want to have any kind of commitment. You know that kind of pain? These are the things we're not aware of. We should have compassion. We should have empathy.
That's beautiful empathy.
Yeah, it's true empathy. You feel bad for it, right? But at the same time, that still doesn't justify me having to call you a man. My opinion.
Or what about the empathy towards someone in your position? Like, what would you want them to understand? What would you want someone operating in good faith? They think what they're trying to do is they're like, you know, I believe in trans. I want to make sure that kids are able to do this if they do feel comfortable. How would you like them to have empathy for you? What do they not understand about you as a parent? Like, these are the discussions I think a lot of times we don't have because there's this like dunk on culture.
Right.
So like, what is it you'd like someone in good faith?
Right.
They're not a psychopath. They're someone who's really trying to make the best decision.
Okay, so you said something earlier. You said, I think both sides care about kids. I don't know. I think the percentage would be more people on the right care for kids than those on the left. Okay? Why? Because more people...
This is not even an I think statement at all. This is not even... bro, I understand Patrick Bet-David's trying to be reasonable with Andrew Schulz here. It's not even an I think statement, and it's not even close. One side advocates for the ability to murder children. One side advocates for not the ability to murder children. One side advocates for children to be protected inside of schools and not be pushed agenda, you know, not have agendas pushed onto them, not have their minds absolutely ruined with this propaganda. And one side pushes for these children's minds to get ruined and for the brainwashing to occur inside of schools for these children. It's not even really close which side cares about the well-being of children. It's not even close, you know. So I understand that Patrick Bet-David is trying to be reasonable and, you know, communicate with Andrew Schulz in a way that's not going to set everything off. But the reality is, it's not even close. It's not an I think statement. It's Patrick Bet-David knows this to be true. Andrew Schulz knows this to be true. I know this. You know this. Everybody knows this.
People on the right have kids than those on the left. Unless the poor, where it's kind of like because of the benefits that you have that you're paying that, that's a different structure I'm talking about. You know, when you break that down and then you come to people, you know, you read these marriage books, How to Have a Great Marriage, written by a person with 6 divorces. Yeah, because I have experience. You know, hey, this is how you should raise your kids. How many kids do you have? I don't have any kids, but this is how you should raise them.
Right.
I'm sorry, buddy. Like, me.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Patrick Bet-David, and Andrew Schulz can do nothing but sit there and listen because he knows he's correct, you know. And Patrick Bet-David didn't even go as hard as he could have, for sure. You know, he was trying to keep it amicable, keep it reasonable. Let me know in the comments, though, what you guys think about Patrick Bet-David absolutely shutting down Andrew Schulz for trying to defend, you know, the trans men dressing as women, and, you know, the whole trans agenda being pushed on children in schools, and what do you do if your child is trans, all this stuff. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this whole Patrick Bet-David versus Andrew Schulz here live on the PBD podcast and the Valuetainment YouTube channel.